Now, our next speaker is Michael Thüne. He is Senior Lead Business Analytics at FreeNow. And in his talk, he will elaborate on how FreeNow uses the Tableau platform to advance their business analytics projects. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for the intro. As you heard, my name is Michael, and I will tell you basically what I did last summer, which sounds a bit frightening maybe for you, but I will actually not show any holiday pictures, but rather talk about data culture, as you already heard. So this will be my focus for today. And as many of you might have experienced last year, there was a sudden stop in the business, and as a mobility provider, we were also quite affected by that. And of course, priorities were changing, but then we also thought, why not using the time and using it wisely and efficiently and focus on things that we wanted to do anyways for quite a long time. And that was why we decided to look into the data culture. But first things first, as you already heard, my name is Michael. I worked in several different companies in Hamburg, mostly in the e-commerce industry and then related to analytics before I joined back then MyTaxi, now FreeNow in 2019 as a marketing intelligence lead, and then developed further to business analytics. And if you never heard the name FreeNow and don't know what exactly we are doing, then there is a high chance that you know our previous brand, which is MyTaxi, which you can see here, under which we operated since 2009, until 2019. And in last year, we decided to actually consolidate all that under one roof, under one brand that is then serving as our main roof for all mobility types that we are consolidating in one app. So basically, we are a platform for multi-mobility in urban environments where you can just rent a car, for example. You can get your taxi or order your taxi and your PHV ride. You can order e-bikes, whatever, on the platform. And this is what FreeNow is doing. But this was just a quick excursus before we directly dive into the topic. So as I told you, data culture was what we wanted to focus on last year. And here I pasted in a nice screenshot from our friends at Tableau, who basically defined this in these 5 pillars. And what I want to focus on today are the latter 2, which is sharing and mindset. And this is very, very closely connected to data literacy in total for me. So data literacy, of course, is a big word, and you could probably talk about this for hours to come to a proper definition, and even then you would have a hard time to get there. But if I would like to try it in 10 seconds, for me, data literacy is actually the ability of your organization to read and understand data, to use it properly, and to base decisions on the data. So all that is something that, of course, we want to achieve, we want to drive from the analytics teams. And how do we do that? So I basically want to show you 3 examples of activities that we either started then last year or that we continued based on what we first thought would be super important, which is data literacy level, of course, in the beginning. So what is the data literacy level of your company? That was one of the first questions we asked ourselves already before March last year. But then we actually tackled that and wanted to answer these questions that you see here on the left side. So how is the organization using data? How good and fast is data access? And how supported do employees actually feel when they are using data? And what could be better than doing a survey to find that out? So this was basically the way we chose to get these results. And first question, what is important to evaluate? You already saw these 3 questions. After we drafted the survey, of course, we needed to run it, and just a quick insight, already recommendation from my side. I would definitely recommend to get the people leaders on board to increase the motivation to participate in that survey, because this was also learning that we got from this. Afterwards, you analyze and visualize the survey results, quite logical step, but this is actually one of the focuses here of this presentation. We did that with Tableau, using Tableau, and I will show you in a second how that looked like. And after that, of course, you plan your initiatives together with your stakeholders on how to actually improve the situation that you were seeing. So how did it look like? This is basically the Tableau dashboard that was the result of the survey and visualizing that. And here you can see I pasted in the version with overlays that are explaining the different sections. And maybe to quickly show you here, on the left side, we basically have different employee dimensions that we wanted to show here, and that you can also practically use as a filter. So first one was different hierarchy levels of the participants of the survey. Then the second part is the actual department that people are working in. Then we also have the different Tableau licenses by type. And then you could actually filter for these different groups and basically click on the operations group here and see the results on the right side for exactly this group. And the metrics we looked at were, we asked for an evaluation from the participants on different questions, like how would you rate data access? How would you rate your data usage at the moment? Is it so is the access fast, for example? Is it easy to access data? And all these questions were answered here and then visualized here in this chart. And then we also asked for which tools are being used, how often are these tools being used, and started from Excel up to the data warehouse, access directly and querying there. And this was also then visualized here. And the last thing we asked for was whether someone would rate themselves in which literacy level they would rate themselves. So be it from data avert to data expert, to also see, okay, where might be a need to actually educate people on. So this was like the getting the status quo last year, and already super interesting insights, which then, of course, were the foundation and the basis for the ongoing conversations on the next steps. And we actually did that, and then depending on the groups and the departments that we identified here as, need some action. So some activities that we did then, for example, was to make the data access itself easier, make it, give it a better structure, how to get access, tie it to roles. So this was one thing we tackled. We identified some groups that need some training and some upskilling, especially on the usage of Tableau. So these were only two examples then as an outcome of this survey. So that was the first example. The second question that we asked ourselves was how actually all teams in the company can benefit from using data. And that for now sounds quite straightforward, this question. But if you think about ways, and that's actually why it's in the title, beyond your main performance KPIs. So in a situation like last year where you had COVID around and your main business is not performing on a level that you're used to, then you might have different priorities, and you can actually also look for efficiency internally, and you can try to understand how are we doing there, how can we use data to measure that. And that's actually what I wanted to show here. So we have different actions again here, and listen to your organization. That's quite clear. Of course, you never know what is needed if you don't listen to them. Once you do that, and I will bring an example that we had with our IT team, you can find data and analytics solutions to solve their business problems. The most important part, make use of your existing tools and your knowledge. And that's again where Tableau comes into play here. So we used our expertise in the analytics team to visualize stuff. I will just say stuff for now before I show you the dashboard in a second. And then share the results and scale the new tools to the broader organization. So of course, this is then something which you can always try to use as a tool to increase the data literacy level overall. Try to find some good examples, some best practices, and then make them known to the broader organization. So this is the example that I talked about. The IT team approached us and asked us for some help because they were not that happy with the Jira internal analysis tools. And they wanted to have their own KPIs visualized in a better way. Sometimes they were not even accessible on Jira itself, and that's why we want to help them. And what we did is we used Tableau to connect directly to the Jira database and use the information, build the KPIs together with IT, define them, build them, and visualize them here. And you already see the full dashboard here on the left side. I also brought a screen video just to quickly walk you through that. So you can already see here at the top, we have the created resolved tickets and the created versus resolved, which is of course a quite important KPI. But then you also had the visualization of the time to resolution, the age of open tickets, and then below that, a filter functionality for different types of requests. Of course, you can also change the time period. And here, when you filter for access requests, for example, you will see that, for example, the IT requests are obviously treated faster than the other requests. So this is actually then already a good finding. So we provided IT with that. And as I said in the beginning, the last step, like scaling that and bringing it to the broader organization, this is a perfect example for that, because if Jira is your main work organization tool, then you can easily also roll that out to other teams and let them benefit from this visualization and knowing their internal efficiency. So that was the second, I would say, very concrete example of something that you might not think of as a primary analytics use case, but actually it helped there a lot. And the third question, and this is when you think about data literacy, have your status quo that we talked about in the first step. Of course, this is something that always comes up. So how can we bring that all to the whole organization? And of course, it needs continuous development. So this is something that is important to know. You probably will never get there to the final stage where you say everything's fine and I don't need to do anything anymore. But what is also important is that you define the expectations for data literacy. So not every role needs the same level of data literacy. For some, it's a different expectation on how they use data. And this is something you need to be aware of and also consider when planning and measuring that. And I try to visualize that here a bit. So you can see the axes of data literacy and data usage. And as examples, I brought 3 teams. So team A is one that is, as you see, quite in the middle for data literacy and data usage. It's also a quite widespread team here. So that means you have people in there that are not using data a lot, that might not be that data literate, but some people in the team use it more, already know a bit more. So this is a situation that we are facing quite often. Then the second team, team B, is a team that is, as you see, quite, I would call them data experts here. So they rely on data, they use data a lot for their decision making. So like the perfect example from an analytics perspective. And you have team C, which is on a quite low scale on both axes. So you already see these 3 different kinds of teams need different support levels. And this is what I also wanted to visualize here. So there are different goals, right? For team B, you would try to keep them engaged by, for example, letting them participate in knowledge sharings, analytics internal knowledge sharings to let them see, okay, what is possible with data? What would be the next step that I can maybe try on my own or together with the analysts? That's one thing. The second and super interesting challenge, I would say, for team A, how to develop that further and maybe push it further to the top right side, is to connect and to build this data community that we all want to have in our organizations. So connect team A to team B, for example, that can be an inspiration for them, how to work with data, how to use it in their day-to-day life, maybe get some new ideas, what is possible. So this is like the second challenge for team A here. And for team C, of course, it's completely different because they're on a different stage. And if I would just combine them with team B and let them talk, they would probably just be overwhelmed. So I need to understand first, I need to educate this team to a certain extent. And I drafted this journey here because I always think it's like a balancing act between the literacy and the usage. So what I would always recommend is to start with the upskilling first, telling them, so how, for example, how KPI definitions look like, identify the main KPIs with them, and then let them to a certain point, and then let them start using the data, let them exploring how this can actually be beneficial for their day-to-day work. And from there, you go the next level in terms of data literacy. And as you see this dotted line here, this is exactly what I meant earlier with the level that you can define. Okay, maybe this is enough. Maybe team C does not need to go here to the top right, but can actually stay here and everything is fine. And I will just focus on keeping them at this stage. And of course, the next logical step will be to measure all that. And this is where the circle closes again with the first part of the presentation. So this year we will do the survey again and we'll understand, okay, how did our activities actually pay out in the end in this literacy levels and these ratings to actually see this continuous improvement. So to quickly summarize, these are the 3 challenges that I see or that I saw last year for us and that we tackled over the past months. Make the big picture visible and measurable was the first one with the data literacy survey. The second one is help all teams to use data and understand their individual performance KPIs. And with all teams, we all know that all is maybe a North Star KPI, but we will probably never get to all teams, but as many as possible. And the third one is to talk about your achievements, to actually connect the teams with each other and build a data community that you can benefit from and that can help you achieving your goals in the organization. And that's basically it. So thank you for your time. Happy to take questions if there are any. And of course, you can always connect to me here on LinkedIn. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. That was a very interesting presentation. Actually, I have a few questions. I think we have a few minutes. Year after year, we do as Bitkom, we do surveys and studies, and we always find out an interesting discrepancy. On the one hand, you have over 75% of companies believing and saying that AI is the most important future technology, but you have only 6 or 8% investing in artificial intelligence. What do you think? How should a company start, digging into, this minefield of data and finding ways to, make a business case for data and artificial intelligence?
A super interesting question. This is, I would say, and I'm coming from the business analytics perspective, from the stakeholder perspective, I would always recommend to actually at this point, listen to your organization to do that first and to understand, okay, what are really pain points that we can solve with new technology, with be it AI or be it something else, but really understand, okay, how can I solve that? And if you don't have that and just try to implement something for the purpose of having it, then I would say it never works. So you need to have your stakeholders on board. You need to understand what I want to solve and then prove that it's working. And even if you start with a small use case with a very limited scale and as a data person, okay, I can develop that further. I could improve it to much higher levels. Wait with it, prove that it's working, and then continue with it. So this would be the way I would approach it.
Mm-hmm. And who are, in your experience, the most persistent roadblockers? Talking with companies, talk always with companies, and some people say it's like the IT department because they are too conservative. They don't want to introduce new tools. Some say it's like the legal department because in all the perceived risks associated with data protection. What's your experience?
I must say, at FreeNow as a tech company, of course, we don't have these tech blockers that much, luckily. So this is like a good thing. You always can improve there as well. But I would say the main roadblockers are, and again, I'm coming back to what I just said. This understanding on the business, on the stakeholder side, how you can make use of this, all this data, all these tools that you have. So we luckily have a quite powerful data organization and very, very skilled people. And we need to make everyone aware of what they can do for the broader business, for the broader organization. And that's one of the challenges.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michael. That was very
You're welcome.
interesting.
Thank you.